is it's a unique year, but I'm curious if like in the future years that's something you would be open to is doing these mid early season preseason tournament or neutral site games against bigger teams or tournament style.
Yeah, so the MT events are really popular. For me, we were in a couple this year, but just because of the pandemic, we're not in them. So that's just the difference. I'm not willing to travel right now because for me, the risk of traveling non-conference wasn't worth it when we go right into the Pac-12. So that was like a calculated decision. But I would probably try to. I'm trying to do something where we can host one because like ASU hosted one. I'd like to host one here at Arizona so we don't have to travel. If I can limit our travel as much as possible in the non-conference, I will. Just because our conference is so tough, but I would play in like a big tournament. I tried to this year just ask if it's a possibility for next year, but I was told no before I could even finish, just because of traveling. And this year, let's say I would have maybe done one towards like the end or in the middle of the Pac-12, like we're playing a non-conference game next week. The problem was because I had some international kids, so we couldn't go like to like let's say somewhere close. It's not technically in America and like Mexico, let's say, or something. We couldn't do anything like that because the pandemic, but also because of our foreign kids. If something happened, if there was like a spike like now in cases, they would have been stuck and they wouldn't have been able to come back in America. So I kind of just I didn't do that because the Virgin Islands or that's U.S. territory, but something like kind of close, but that's in another country would have been fun, especially because we didn't do our foreign trip. So if that opens up and we can do like an MT and somewhere like Mexico or Canada, I would do something like that for sure. I think they're fun. I think they're challenging. In there, we're a good team. There's other good teams in them.
Did you ever participate in any like that when you were a player?
Gosh, that's so long ago. Well, when I was a player, I don't know. It wasn't called MT, I don't think, but like any kind of tournaments. Gosh, I think we did. Yes, we did one in Hawaii. I remember because I crashed a moped, and ever since after that, no one could ride mopeds. Yeah, we did one in Hawaii. There was a big one, kind of like the men's Maui. I think it was something like that years ago. I don't know if they still have that in Hawaii. It was awesome. It
Okay.
was at the time. It was with like I don't know if it was like Florida, some other like Virginia, some really big schools in there, and they were good. Yeah, I would do something like that for sure.
PJ, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start out with the UCLA questions. So it's game week, and since last year, you could say that they're a big rival of yours. You went into that first game last year, you both were undefeated. You came out, unfortunately, you had the loss, and it wasn't a good game for you, but then you came back and you had probably the best game all season. That was the best 40 minutes that you played. Does that give you a little more something going into this game, or is it just the media who builds up that there's this rivalry and it means a lot more?
Probably the media. For us, like yeah, it's a rivalry, but it's not. It's nothing like ASU or. I think it's just two good teams that compete and have really good matchups. So like last year Dean and McDonald were just going at it. So I think those kind of matchups create more of a rivalry. I think going there we really got punched in the face. We played bad, got our butt kicked. We had Helena out with the flu. It was just like we just didn't respond. And so I was proud of the way we responded here. And I think here it wasn't our best game. I think our Stanford game was better, but it was one of the two best games. I think Stanford game and UCLA game were some of our best basketball. We are not playing at that level right now, and I don't think UCLA is either. I think we're both trying to figure things out. You're working with different people. They have more returners more returners. Starting coming back this year. I don't know what I'm trying to say. More starters returning. I'm trying to say. So I think they have a little bit more of an advantage. They're a little bit more cohesive than us. We have two new starters in the lineup, but I think it's going to be a great game. I think, we both are competitive, but we're both adjusting early in the season. So I'm curious to see how the basketball is going to look, but definitely the competition and I think the motivation for both teams is there.
And do you think coming into this game that UCLA has a little bit more to prove because because the last time that you played them, you beat them, and maybe they're still holding on to that?
Yeah, I think that they're just probably going to be hungry. I mean, we played a really good game, and like we kicked each other's butts at our homes. So I think that they're just going to be motivated. I think we're just a good team, and like we should win the game at home. I think at most the home games you should win, but I think they're very tough to play against. And they're a very good team. So if we don't play well, we won't win, and I think vice versa. But our team's excited. I think they're excited, and I think also this is gonna, it's the beginning of the Pac-12. We don't ever start in December. I mean, it's like the very beginning of December, we're starting Pac-12. We usually have another month of non-conference, so another 20, at least 3.5 weeks. So I think the basketball is not going to be as good for either of us or anybody around the conference as it is later because we've all only got one game in. I think ASU is the only one that's played, I think, three non-conference games. Everybody else has played one, USC, us. So I think that's a disadvantage for where we're at because I think everything's so different. Like the arena is different. I was watching some film last night on last year's games, and like the crowd was amazing. It was such a different. I was looking at like, oh, I missed that. It felt like that was 2 years ago. So that just, it's such a different environment. It does not feel like a game. In the game, there's no one there. There's no, you don't feed off the crowd. Here we feed and we get energy off of our sixth man, which is our crowd. So I think all the players are adjusting to all that. It's very different. It's more like high school, and it's just that we didn't have that here. So I'm curious to see how we're going to respond after our first game. Kind of got the jitters out, and how we're going to respond. We're definitely getting better this week. We're working hard, and we have to improve on some things this week.
And one last quick one. Is it difficult for you to prepare for a team like UCLA who, she's playing a little different system this year she only has 8 players and they're sort of playing positionless. Does that make it a little difficult or not for you? Does it not?
No, I don't think they're playing much different. Like watching them on film, and I mean going off one game this year, they're pretty much playing the same. I think the only difference is they're running Michaela a little bit at the 3, but they're playing the same. Lauren Miller is stepping outside a little. To me, it doesn't look any different. And the 8 players, we all only play 7 players in conference. So I don't think that that's a huge factor. I mean, you'll see as even us with a longer bench, we're going to probably play 8 people. So I think that's pretty similar. I think that the thing that can be a challenge for them with 8 players is their style of defense. So they're aggressive and they get up in the passing lanes and stuff. So that's probably hard to sustain with the small, or if someone gets in foul trouble. I think that's a big disadvantage for them. And I think that's why you'll see them play more zone. I'm anticipating probably at least 40% zone. And if they're in foul trouble, more. So I think with those things, you can kind of conserve a little bit. But I think for us, we have more depth. I'm not going to play 12, 13 people. You can't, and keep a rhythm. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of games where we're blowing people out. Not in our conference. It's just too competitive. So yeah, they're not difficult to prepare for because we're used to how they play. They haven't like drastically changed their style. Now they're difficult to match up against because I don't love our matchups with Michaela. But just like on the flip side, I'm sure they don't love their matchups with Ari. So I think it's going to be, we know Ari and Michaela, they're 2 All-Americans. They're going to do their thing. I think that the difference for both of our teams is who are the other role players that are going to really step up. Like for us, Kate has to have a really good game, but then that's Lauren Miller's going to have, she's playing pretty well. So I think it's the other people, the Sams and the, some of their starters, they have to step up.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, you're talking about the matchups though. Do you feel like you do match up better though because you have someone like Trinity and then also you have someone like Lauren this year?
No, because last year we had Dominique and we had Samaje. So I don't think it's, but I don't love our matchup with her. I think but I'm sure every team says that because she's so athletic. She's quick. She can shoot the 3, and that's what she kind of she's added to her game. She didn't do that her first year, so I think she's just a tough matchup. Unless, because there aren't a lot of hers, so she is always going to be a tough matchup. But I think inside we have Lauren, but then we have Samaje. So those matchups don't concern me as much as the matchup with her. But then no one. I don't know who's going to match up with Ari. I mean, Charisma will probably guard Ari, but that's a difficult matchup for them. So I think both of those things are kind of going to cancel out. Because let's say they both have 20 and whatever, they kind of do their thing consistently. It's going to be the other people that are going to make the difference, in my opinion.
So what can you guys do to be better on the glass this time?
We have to box out. We have to box out. I don't value offensive rebounds, so I don't care about offensive rebounds. I care more about transition defense. But we have to box out. We can't. I don't know. We're not athletic enough to just stand and jump with people. So I don't know why we think we do that, but we're working on it every single day, and we will work on it every day. Just like last year was one of our weak points. We worked on it every day. We charted. We ran from his box out. So it's just something we have to value and emphasize. And it's probably my fault for not working on it every single day. I didn't think it'd be that bad, to be honest.
And you were talking about how different it is to not have fans, but what are the advantages of playing at home this year?
Well, I mean, not traveling, because I anticipate it being very stressful to travel. Just because, I don't know if we have charters yet, but if we have charters, easier, but it's just the stress of traveling. You can barely drink water on planes. You have to kind of sip under your mask. You can't eat or for hours. It's just a lot more stress in general. And then for instance, when we travel in a couple of weeks to Colorado, we're going to a hot zone. So we're going to a place that has like 15% infection with COVID. So it's for me, it's scary a little bit. So, I thought I look at Arizona, we're at like 7 or 8%. I don't know if that changed in the last few days. We go somewhere else, it's 15, 20. It's like, that's a lot. 15 out of every 100 people is a lot. So I think the advantage is staying home, being in your own bed, doing your own routine. But like, as far as a home court advantage, it doesn't feel the same. Like we really had a home court advantage because I'm confident that this matchup Friday, we would have sold out McHale. So it's like to not have that, it's just, you got to create your own energy, and it just is a little different. So it's not as much of a home court advantage for anybody in the conference.
And do you have any scheduling updates for us? I saw, again, you were on Twitter trying to find a game.
No, so I'm probably filling one game like right before Christmas, but I'm still looking to fill another one like in the middle of December.
And I know one matchup that I think people want to see is UNLV. And I know you talked about how New Mexico and GCU and New Mexico State have turned you down, even though they're pretty close. But what about UNLV? Is that a team that
We've tried everybody, but we're going to reach back out. And I'm sure Sam would be happy. I think Sam would send out a tweet talking about it. I mean, remember, she has 2 sisters on that team. So I think her parents and her would love to see that. Definitely the family. And right now, if it was right now, the families can't even come to games. But I think, we're trying to reach out to everybody because, I think it's a different year. I think some schools like Oregon State had a game scheduled against an NAIA school. Normally we wouldn't do that. And I'm trying to, that's my last resort because we just have to play games. But I'm trying to really, I think something will happen. It'll just probably be like 5 to 7 days before. So, but we're gonna try UNLV today, actually. Yeah, if you guys know anybody, because we're trying everybody and we're not having luck. I think the frustrating thing for me is like people that are in town or an hour away, it just makes more sense. Like it doesn't make sense to not play us. And I think if I'm a mid-major program and I can save money just logistically, I would go close. And like, because you're supposed to lose the game, so who cares if you lose the game? Like if you win the game, it's just an advantage. There's no, you don't get, if you lose the game, you're supposed to lose. So I think that I don't understand why it's so difficult to get a game local or with GCU. I don't understand.
For the teams that turn you down, is it usually because they're afraid to get beaten badly, or is it? I mean, what do they usually say?
Well, they don't say that, but it's obvious that's the reason. Because I mean, at one point, GCU was missing 7 games and didn't want to play us, and I think financially they have more constraints than we do. So I think that's just, I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, there are teams where, like, if you had asked me a couple years, do you want to play South Carolina? I would have said, heck no. But if they're an hour away, I would have if I'm a mid-major school. Because if we played out of our mind and beat them, it's the upset of the century. But if you lose, it's not. So I think I don't understand. It has to be that. But I think at this point in a pandemic, when we're all trying to save money for our programs and people are losing jobs and stuff, I want to play regionally. I want to save our department money in that sense. I want to get the games, and it just makes sense. It's less travel if you can drive. So I don't understand why it's so difficult.
PJ, go ahead.
Sure. I'm going to switch a little to a couple questions about Jess, your director of operations. What makes her such an integral part of your staff?
She is like she is the backbone of our program. She does everything that's not basketball. So all the travel, the players' schedules, my schedule, the food on the road, the food at home, just everything you can think of. She makes the program go. Like without her, we'd probably implode. Um, I just, it's all the little things. It's the things that people don't appreciate or realize. It's kind of, you take it for granted, but if she was out with COVID, it would be a problem. We would be like, you would see a lot of gray hair, and it would be hard because like a lot of us don't even know all the stuff she does, right? Because there's so many layers to everything she does. But yeah, she does a great job. Like I value her tremendously. I think she's wonderful. She's like family, and the players love her. So they're just everything about our program like flows smoothly because of her.
And what do you think that, I mean, even now, like especially now during the pandemic, her role, like everybody else's on your staff, has gotten like 10 times harder, right? There's so many more, like you said, layers, and Jess just seems to keep stepping up and just sort of does it, right?
Well, I think that, so if you look at the pandemic and what's going on, I think just as a part of a program or just a job, you have to create value for yourself, and I think that you have to do more with less, and that's just how you have to be a team player during a pandemic. So that means I have to do more things, the staff, and that's the expectation. That's the standard, especially in our program. It's not, you don't ask why do I have to do that. You just kind of take on more stuff when you have to, and that's part of being a good teammate. So she's just someone that's aligned with me, so she does that, and I don't align with people that don't do that. So for her, if she knows some things are missing and she's got to pick up the slack, she's just going to go do it. I don't have to ask her. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're successful, because we have people behind the scenes doing those things. And I think that it's a year where like she's helping me more with scheduling this year. There's just so many other things that have fallen on her. Or to do her normal job, she's got to ask 10 more questions because there's just approval. There's just like protocol to everything. And for us, it's challenging because things change constantly. It's all fluid. And it's like from the Pac-12, from every aspect it is. So one thing that was okay last week isn't okay this week. For instance, the parents. Parents were at the game last week, they're not at the game this week. So she receives all the phone calls from parents. So there's just a lot of stuff. And I think all of our jobs have been a little bit harder. Like I had so much stuff last week that wasn't even basketball related. This week I was like, okay, like I just am focusing on basketball because there's so many things and so many decisions, and it's a lot. So without her, it would be impossible for me to do all the things I have to do. So she's awesome.
Alec, go ahead.
Yeah, Arizona Athletics announced over the weekend after Sunday's game that families of staff and players aren't going to be allowed to at McHale for a little bit here in the future. So how does this impact any of the players on your team that had family or friends or staff members come to these games? What's the conversations been like with that?
We really haven't had conversations about it because we knew it was coming. I warned them last week that this is probably coming down the pipeline. I think that it's a great decision from our administration because it's just too risky. I think it's difficult, like when you're a coach and you have a team of 15 and like 10 people's families are coming, they're all flying in. So it's just, and they're 18 to 22-year-olds. They're not wearing a mask, probably with their parents in the hotel room and going to eat. So I think that just to keep people safe, I think it's the best decision because if we have this bubble, we're testing every day. And everybody has parents coming that aren't testing and coming from different cities and hot cities and cities where the infection rate's high. It's just not smart to have them all come here. So I think the decision is very smart until things calm down. The last thing we want is to not allow parents to come support their kids. But it's just right now we're in a pandemic. It's a unique year where everything is dangerous because one parent coming infected can wipe out our whole team. So I think that we just let things like calm down a little bit, and then the parents will be allowed to come back. But I think it's a smart thing. And just so you know, we were one of two schools in the Pac-12 that was allowing parents. Other schools weren't. So we're just kind of going to what everybody else is doing. I think you'll see it all throughout the Pac-12.
And then a note for the UCLA game. I believe Ari didn't have her best game when you guys won. Like it was Sam Thomas and Kate Reese that played really well at home, and that was kind of the case against NAU this weekend. But do you? It seemed like Ari in the first half was kind of forcing some shots.
Yeah, we were all forcing shots.
How do you coming out of the gate? How do you help her find rhythm? At the first couple minutes of the game.
Well, yeah, we talked about it. So Ari and I had some conversations, and we watched film. So just so they can see, and we watched a lot of film and charted all of our good shots and bad shots. So we all, as a team, we took like 30 bad shots out of like 70. So, we just have to take our time. It's not that like a rush shot sometimes is okay when we're in rhythm or we just scored 10 times or different. So there's different timing. So it does, just because you make a shot doesn't make it a good shot. So I think just watching film and understanding what that looked like, because I think in a game sometimes you'll say, oh, it felt good, but you won't realize the time and score and all those things. The film doesn't lie. So watch a lot of film, teach. And I think there was a lot of factors going on. They didn't play for 266 days. So they're a little rusty. Our fitness is not in game shape yet. Like it's different simulating a game. And then like Shayna hadn't played in a year and a half. Trinity hadn't played in like 266 days, and she's on a new team. So we introduced two new players into our starting lineup. So with that, there isn't going to be continuity yet. We've only been together like a month practicing. So it takes time. So we're working on that, showing film, breaking things down, and just working those groups together a lot more. I think, the first game against AAU, we played a lot deeper into our bench, and we won't do that. We can't do that in the Pac-12. So you'll see a shorter rotation. You'll see people get more of a rhythm, and it's just going to look different.
Kim, go ahead.
So the Pac-12 sent out this email about these geotags, I guess they're going to be using for contact tracing. How much have you heard about that? And when will the players wear them? All that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know. We're waiting. So that's the kind of stuff I have no idea. We're waiting because I heard about that before. I think they're already, I don't know if they're in like any day now. But they're supposed to help a lot with the contact tracing because I guess it calculates how long you've been in contact with someone. And it's funny because the information I've got, it shows that on the court they're not. So on the court the tracing isn't bad, or like in practice and movement. Where they're finding the most with the tracing is you have the most time near someone during like teaching. So we're making we know that, and that's coming up. So we're trying to create habits. So during the teaching moments or during our huddle in the circle, we're spreading out more, especially teaching on the side. When I'm teaching on the court, you'll see it's just automatically going on the line together at the baseline. So we're just like, hey, spread out there. So that's the moments where the tracing is supposed to be at the highest, like contact with each other. So we have not gotten them yet. We haven't received them yet. So I'm hoping we receive them very soon because I'm curious. I want to know how that works and if it helps. But our team, so I think we're one of the few teams probably in the country that's still wearing our masks in practice. So if you look all throughout the Pac-12 in the country, no one's masking. We're masking every day in practice. So we don't have to, but I believe it's another layer of protection, and our players have done great with it. So why not just protect us a little more? And then you saw in the game, probably half of our team wore masks, half didn't. Some started, some took them off. And I'm with whatever they're comfortable with, I support. So we've done a great job, and it's saved us from probably 3 or 4 times being quarantined because we were wearing masks. So that's a good thing.
PJ, go ahead.
Sure. Just to follow up on Kim's question, I know that I just saw that I think it's the SEC is using a similar type of technology to trace, and they like sewed it into their uniform. Is that something that you guys are going to do?
I have no idea. I don't even know what it is. I don't know if it's like I don't know. I hope we can do that, but I don't know how. But then how it's used in practice?
I don't know. They just showed it in the uniform. There was a picture on Twitter or something where somebody was holding up the bottom of the uniform and there was like a square. And I guess that was the technology. It looked like it was sewed into the uniform.
So maybe there's multiple, maybe there's a few of them. And I don't know. See, I didn't know if it was a watch or like a heart rate monitor thing. I don't know, but I'm sure that we'll have it in practice too. So maybe there's multiple. I have no idea. I don't even know what it looks like. But I just hope we get it soon. If it helps, I hope we get it soon. So like, I hope it's not one of those things where it's going to cause contact tracing more. then that's not gonna be a good thing. I hope it's something where it's gonna like eliminate some of the contact tracing. Because I mean, poor Bendu, she's been contact traced and held out probably 4 times, and it's never been her fault. It's like she gave someone a ride home, and like they got caught. There was a fault. We've had like a lot of false positives. So I think that's just happening. So I think it's gonna eliminate those things, which is good. It's like
But
I don't, you don't know what to expect. There's so many layers to things. I don't know what travel is gonna look like. I don't know. I just know we like test. I have to decide on 30 people. Those are the only people that can be down near the court. We test like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday we test twice. So we're doing everything we can to be safe.
so in the second half of the game, as other players started finding a little bit more of their rhythm, and you talked about how so many of them haven't played in a long time, like Shayna. Is that a sort of a glimpse of what we will see, or is that still a little bit like, is she going to be even more dynamic than we saw?
Yeah, it will be a lot better. Like Shayna and Trinity. I think just Shayna was tight because she hadn't played in so long, a new team or chance. I think they were just kind of like forcing things, just feeling stressed. And I just said, hey, we don't need to be stressed. That's not our identity. You don't have to come in and think you have to score 20 points. That's not what we do. And I gave the examples of Dominique and Amari. There's some games Dominique had 2 points, but she helped us win, and she was the most valuable player on the court. So I think just talking about those things, and we just have to work on those things. But we're working on it every day, so we're going to be better. You'll see us better on Friday for sure.
And where do you see Shayna's game really, really sort of impacting you? I mean, we've talked about how she's going to help create for, for Ari, and how she helps on transition and does all that kind of stuff. Where do you think probably her biggest impact will be?
Her biggest impact will be in transition, and it'll be relieving pressure from Ari as far as like last second situations in the backcourt. So I think you'll see those things will be her biggest impact. The things we're working on is like we have so many dynamic players, so we don't have to hold the ball. We're holding the ball too long. We're trying to go one-on-one too much. We can go one-on-one after ball reversal, 10 seconds in the shot clock, or 10 seconds left in the shot clock. I don't coach a type of style where I want one pass and a shot. That's not the type of basketball I want to play. So I think just learning those things and getting comfortable and getting some continuity is what we have to do, and we will do it.
And you guys, in the glimpses of practice we've seen, it does seem like there's more movement than you showed Sunday.
Yeah.
So it seems like you guys will be a completely different team once it starts clicking, I guess.
Yeah, but even like if you look at us last year, we weren't nearly as good in non-conference as we were in conference. So we moved the ball a lot better later in the conference, not in the non-conference. So I think that you'll see us grow in those areas. You'll see it better this week. It's not going to be perfect this week just because it's so early and it's our second game. I think you'll start to see it into our like 10th, 12th game. When we get a rhythm, we get comfortable, and the players know what to expect. I think players, they need like not a schedule, but it's like a kid. A kid does better on a schedule. I think players do better when they know what to expect. Like someone knows about how many minutes they're playing. I think you have more comfort and confidence in that sense, but we don't have that rotation yet. So I think, and I also think Shayna and Bendu and Trinity will be better once they've played a few games because they feel better. It's not like the first game, like, I just felt like everybody was kind of like, oh, we're ready to play. They were just like chomping at the bit. It's just, but I think they'll relax and just play and have fun. And it's not going to be so new. They were adjusting everything. It's really hard to communicate with the mask on. It's harder for the point guard, so other people have to pick up the slack and echo plays, and all those little things matter. And I think they'll be more settled. So definitely see us better, but you won't see us playing our best basketball, obviously, for a little while. But that's okay. I want to peak in March, so.
All right, if that's everything, we'll be done here. So thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks, you guys. Have a good day. Stay safe.
All right, see you, Coach. Thank you.
Bye.